Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to interact with you. So swing on over to odphpodcast.com, join the conversation on the social media accounts, check out the directory. Pat, how many providers are we on right now?
112,000.
Sounds about right to me. Parlay Points blog section, new stuff going up there every single day, it feels like, and there's a lot that is coming, especially the Dre Driven vlog is blowing up right now on our YouTube channel. The classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcasts, organizational links, supporting Black Lives Matter, voter registration, and so much more. The Patreon, the TeePublic store. There is so much that I'm losing track because I get so animated talking about it that I'm going to just tell you simply swing on over to odphpodcast.com and check it out yourself. And on social media, use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off this edition of the entertainment show, we have to recap an event that went down, I was in attendance for, Rich from 3FN went with me, and is a usual ritual for us here at the ODPH.
It's an annual event.
It's an annual event. We cover it every year. It actually spawned the first entertainment edition way back when, 5 years ago. And that is New York Comic Con.
So you could say it's almost like a pilgrimage.
It is. You can definitely say that. I mean, it's something that the first year we went down there, it was Pat and I running around with just cell phones, covering like press, because that's what we do. And then turns out a year later, guess what? We did get press. This year, we kind of went a different direction, shall we say.
Incognito,
if you will. Not the official for them, per se. But we were asked to cover some things for some of our great outlets. So we definitely did that. And there was a lot of news to go through as well. So we're going to focus on the positives. And that is something that I definitely want to break down because there was a lot that happened this past weekend. But kicking off for us on Wednesday, we were fortunate enough to be in attendance at Warner Brothers screening for the premiere of the new Mortal Kombat's Legends Snowblind animated film.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we were in the house to see that before anybody else. And dare I say, if you are into Mortal Kombat, you're going to absolutely love this film. If you're kind of like on the fence about it, you're definitely going to dig it. It starts very strong. It kind of has a middle section that gets really calm and quiet, maybe drags a little too long in my opinion. But that ending goes absolutely, completely crazy. It fits that Mortal Kombat motif. It was a very cool film, especially the ending. So, like I say, I'm definitely into the franchise. I'm not like a super, super Mortal Kombat guy, but I do like it. And I definitely have to say I recommend it. So if you were into Mortal Kombat, you definitely want to check out that animated film, which is now out on Blu-ray as we are recording. So you definitely want to check that out as well.
Yeah, looking just at who worked on the movie. It was directed by a gentleman named Rick Morales, who, according to his IMDb, he's known for being the director of Beware the Batman, which looked like it was a TV show from 2013 to 2014. He was, good credits here. He was in the art department for Star Wars The Clone Wars in 2008. He was on the art department from 2010 to 2012 for Generator Rex, which was a Cartoon Network show, and one you will enjoy. He was a producer on Injustice.
Yes.
I believe this is the movie? Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, I'll still take it. So we definitely want to thank Warner Brothers Media and their home entertainment division for inviting us to come down and cover it as press. So we definitely are super thankful for that. Would love to do it again next year if the opportunity arises. But that's how we kicked off Wednesday. Thursday really was kind of a good feel-around day, kind of get your way around the con, because if you've never been to New York Comic Con, they did some expanding into the Empire building.
Right, the new portion they were working on for like 3-4 years.
Yes, they got that up and running. They did move a lot of the panels to there. So
which makes sense.
It made a lot of sense. It freed up a lot of room in the lower areas where you had the gaming area, the autograph section, and, of course, Artist Alley. And we took full advantage of that. I got to meet some of the writers that we cover here on Parlay Points. and definitely had a great conversation with Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott. You know them from Radiant Black and Rogue Sun, respectively. Had a very good football discussion with Ryan, too.
Ken talked about his love for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, my. Well, Ryan is a big Miami Dolphins fan, and obviously we've had a little back and forth on Twitter about that, me being the diehard Buffalo Bills fan, but it was a great conversation. Definitely we're talking about Rogue Sun, and obviously Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 100, which came out, was the first customer that he had to sign.
Oh, okay.
Ever since the book came out, he's like,
Nice.
he was like, this is the first time I've seen the book, so he was super animated to do it. Great conversation. Can't speak highly enough about Ryan. We are working on a date that he is going to be coming on the ODPH to talk Rogue Sun, which I can't recommend enough. It is a phenomenal series spiraling out of the Radiant Black universe. The first trade paperback is out right now via Image Comics, and the last issue was the Choose Your Own Adventure one. I couldn't talk about it because of embargo reasons.
Yep.
I'll tell you right now, it was a phenomenal issue. It was something completely left of center, and it's something that they do at Black Market Narrative. That's the house that does Rogue Sun, Inferno Go Red, which is coming out, The Dead Lucky, which you know I love talking about that book. Like, they do so many cool things, especially Radiant Black just had a very special issue with issue number 18 where they did the fold out and the four panels going across.
Yeah.
They have a special edition where it's just a gatefold and it tells the entire story folding out. Like, they do so much cool stuff at that house. I recommend all the books because they really are just pushing the envelope as far as creativity and marketing on stuff. And if you ever go into their Discord is spot on too. Love hanging out in there. So like I said, started a great conversation there. Met up with David Pepos, who we know from Savage Avengers. He's actually doing a 2-part story for Fantastic Four right now.
Ooh.
Sue Storm is basically filling in the role of John McClane in Die Hard.
Oh,
in
Jesus.
The Baxter Building. It's a
that's
great,
awesome.
Part 2 comes out this week, so I recommend picking that up. So caught up with him for a little bit, and caught up with Stephanie Phillips, who is the writer of Grimm for Boom Studios, Beatrix Rose, Vigilante for Comixology, We Only Kill Each Other, which is a great Comixology story that I covered early in the year. She was amazing. Can't speak highly enough of her. Just, had a great conversation about Grimm, which I can go into full detail about. I do hold it back on the podcast a lot, but it is up there as my new favorite series of 2022. It is that damn good. I know they just wrapped up their first arc. I recommend as soon as the trade comes out, because the first few issues are very, very hard to find right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's been flying out of the comic stores, and rightfully so. It is such a creative story that just you will get hooked issue 1 and you'll be locked in for the entire series run. And like I say, they're just ready to start the second issue or second arc. And she was telling me she just got the art from Flaviano, who is just doing some amazing things in this book. And she's like, you are not ready for what's coming out for that. So I am super excited to check that out when it comes out. And like I said, definitely would trying to make it happen that she'll be coming on the podcast to talk about Grimm and Beatrix Rose and everything else, because she does fantastic work. Next up on the events that we were covering, a Super Mario Brothers trailer dropped.
Yes, it did.
So obviously this one had a lot of buzz going into it. Chris Pratt doing the voice.
Yep.
Jack Black crashed the panel.
Yep. Jack Black also involved is Charlie Day as Luigi, which
Yes.
is phenomenal casting in my opinion.
So Pat, I know you weren't in attendance for it, but what did you think of the trailer watching it?
Well, first of all, Nintendo, step your game up. I had no idea they were even doing a panel about this in New York. I just knew the trailer was dropping on Thursday because there was a buzz on social media about it. I got home from work. I got home from whatever I was doing. I think it was at the gym that day. And I was like, oh, hey, they're doing the live stream for the trailer. And it was over, so I rewound it a bit on YouTube, and I got to a point where I'm like, all right, nope, that's too far. Nope, here we go, just right. And they're talking, and it's with some folks from New York, from the United States, because it was like a whole pre-recorded thing, and they were talking to folks from Japan, and they're like, oh hey, let's show the trailer for everyone online and our friends in New York. And I was like, wait, they're doing a thing at New York about this? I feel like there would have been a little more fanfare about this. Had not even heard a word about this. So Nintendo, step your game up.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think for some of the panels that they did at New York Comic Con, just my opinion, and this isn't meant to be a slight, I think some went very low key under the radar. And for me, I'm somebody that studies that whole panel list when it comes out. In years past, we've done an entire episode devoted to breaking down each day. This year, obviously, we didn't do it because we weren't doing official press, but we wanted to cover the stuff that we were going to be in attendance for. So this was one that when we saw it for the registration, like, this one jumped out because I had no idea what was going on. And then yet alone, we had the panel goes down. saw the trailer and thought it was solid. Like
the trailers. Okay, Jack Black. So the cast list for this movie, if you haven't heard, is insane. This movie is coming out. When is this coming out? Some point next year, 2023. It's expected April 7th. So it's, as we mentioned, it's got Chris Pratt playing the voice of Mario, Anya Taylor-Joy playing Princess Peach, Charlie Day playing Luigi, Jack Black playing Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key playing Toad, Seth Rogen playing Donkey Kong, Fred Armisen playing Cranky Kong, Kevin Michael Richardson playing Kamek. Then you've got Carrie Payton, who's a very well-known voice actor, playing the Penguin King. And I will say, and for what it's worth, you got Charles Martinet is listed in the IMDb credits, so he is the voice of Mario, has been the voice of Mario for like 30-something years, 40-something years, whatever it is. He'll have a role in the movie in some capacity. The animation looked good because it's from Illumination Studios, so it's the same crew who does, the Minions movies, the Despicable Me movies. So the animation looks phenomenal. I know people are talking about Mario's backside, but yeah, whatever. But the animation looked good. Jack Black as Bowser is phenomenal. Like his voice as Bowser blew in the trailer, blew me away. Chris Pratt, little to be desired. We only really got maybe one sentence to hear him as Mario, and I wasn't entirely sold on it yet. I need a longer trailer. I need to hear more than just maybe one. I think it was like one or two sentences. But other than that, the trailer honestly looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the trailer looked good. Like I say, the panel's energy was kind of carrying out. Like we were outside looking in because we were running around doing some other things. But we had some friends that were in attendance for it. They were really impressed by it. And I think that this trailer is going to surprise some people. Like I say, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I thought it was solid enough that it was like, okay, I get it. And, I can understand they're going to be showing a lot more as the months progress. But I think they're going to be making some changes too. Because I think that it was almost like in Sonic the Hedgehog kind of feel that the first one came out, mixed reviews. I mean, this was
the first trailer for Sonic, very negative reviews.
Very negative, but I thought it was a lot better when they went back and redid it.
Yeah,
after hearing this. I think you're going to have the same thing happen here with that.
It could be.
Which, you know what, I don't blame them about doing as well. So I thought that was another standout moment. Another one panel that we had friends talking about too was the Velma one, the new series coming out to HBO Max.
Yep.
Heard a lot of good things about this. So definitely they're taking a different take with the long-standing Scooby-Doo character. And I definitely want to check it out when it comes out. I think that could be a sleeper show.
It could be. I heard they were doing the trailer, and it was Mindy Kaling, I believe.
Mindy Kaling was there
behind it. She's voicing Velma. I got to say, Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, is a very interesting choice as Fred, and I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah.
Just if you know the character Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and then you think of Fred from Scooby-Doo, no matter what iteration or what rendition it is of him, whether it's the original series or one of the later or more recent ones, night and day difference between those two characters.
Oh, absolutely.
But Glenn Howerton's a great actor.
Yes, no, I think this one had a very stellar cast onto it, and I thought this one kind of flew under the radar a little bit as well. But I'm definitely going to check the series out when it comes out. I think that they had a lot of things going on with this. Also, I think one of the standout media outlets that came down, to put it, I think that's probably the best way to say it, was Amazon Prime Video.
Oh, yeah.
Amazon Studios Prime Video.
Yeah.
They had a lot of panels going on. Good Omens, we heard, was coming back next year. Legends of Vox Machina is coming back January of 2023.
Still got to finish season 1. Nothing against it. Just there's a lot that came out between I started watching it well after it came out, and then just other stuff started coming out that I wanted to watch, and it kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, no, I thought that they had a very strong presence with that. The Peripheral, that's a brand new show that's coming out as well. Big panel noise coming out of that one too. So I thought they had a very good showing as far as media outlets in the building for it. So I thought they did great. Obviously, one of the big stories was the return of Marvel to NYCC. Now, if you're not familiar, Marvel Comics, and I do stress comics.
Not the movies.
Not the movies. Comics.
Comics. Occasionally TV.
Occasionally TV. But comics showed out and definitely wanted to take the crown for New York. They had a phenomenal presence, and you saw a lot of the familiar panels come back.
Yeah.
This week in Marvel, they did a live recording with the teams behind Captain America.
Okay.
So the 2 books out right now, which are written by Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, Tochi Onobuchi, and they had the editor Alana Smith in the house.
Oh, okay.
There is a big crossover that is coming out called Cold War. And I have not shown Pad this. I've been trying to hide this.
I've seen the timeline, and I saw the kind of like logo for it, but past that I haven't seen anything else.
This is the cover.
Yo.
of the one-off that they're doing. It's the Captain America and Winter Soldier special.
I kind of want to get that blown up and framed.
Yeah, the cover is by Salvador LaRocca. Art is by Kev Walker. That's
nice.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be setting things in a crazy direction. And the big takeaway is Bucky Barnes, a.k.a. the Winter Soldier, has a whole new look.
It does.
And a whole new outlook on the MCU.
That's got, like, the poster's giving me some, like, late 70s, early 80s Bond poster vibes.
Yep.
With, like, a spy thriller.
Yeah, they went back to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. days. Yeah,
I like it.
I loved everything they had to come out with this. They've been doing some very good work with these books, Sentinel of Liberty and Symbol of Truth, respectively. I think both books have been really spot on. I'm starting to go back and get into them. Obviously, I read a ton of comics, so I don't have a time for everything, but I'm trying to go back and definitely check it out. What I've read so far, really dig. And obviously, leaving this panel, I am super excited to see what they're going to be doing here, because obviously the new persona of the Winter Soldier is going to stand out. They're obviously crossing over with the White Wolf of Wakanda.
Right.
And that whole storyline sounds absolutely epic. They're bringing Nomad back, which
Interesting.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to be very honest. I really don't. I was never a big fan of him. This is not USA agent level of hate. But I always kind of thought he was just a C-level hero at best.
Sure.
But I trust the writers, what they're doing here. I think that obviously, if you know Parlay Points, Lansing and Kelly wrote phenomenally with The Harbinger for Valiant Entertainment, one of my favorite books. And if you can really make me care about Peter Stankiewicz, I will give you the benefit of the doubt every single time. What they're doing here, I'm already jazzed about. Like, you can tell the sound of my voice. Fun panel, and like I say, this was the first one we attended for Marvel, and it really had that feel of like Marvel is back. And obviously, if you've never been to New York Comic Con before, it's tough to explain, but Marvel really, really, really wants to win New York Comic Con every year.
They usually take up a good chunk of space on the show floor when it comes to, like, square footage.
Yes. They definitely did. They had a couple separate booths. Like, they were in their usual location.
Okay.
But they also had a separate one for a new online game called Snap.
Okay.
Which we tested out. Rich from 3FN played it. Really loved it. Had a lot of good things to say about it. So that is going to be one that you definitely want to keep your eye on when it comes out. But they were definitely doing a lot of crazy events like they usually do. So I don't know if I would necessarily crown them Kings of Con yet, though. They did have a strong competition from two competitors.
Okay.
DC Comics panels
Okay.
really showed out this week.
Okay.
And Comixology. Holy smokes. Did they ever come out and try taking the crown? They didn't have a huge presence per se, like not a huge booth.
Sure.
But first one as you come off the escalators at the Javits Center in Artist Alley.
Yep.
So you hit it straight on.
Yep.
They had creator after creator after creator signing, and they had giveaways galore from tablets. If you were the first one in line, they had exclusive trading cards like we talked about.
Yeah.
Got a pack, and they were the books that are on the lines with QR codes. Like, they did some cool things, and they had writers and artists come down signing them.
Nice.
And they had gift cards that were going to, like, they were doing so much, and the pins too. If you like pins, that is the place to go.
And people thought Amazon blew all their money on Rings of Power.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. They definitely showed out for this. And why we go into this is that morning we ran into an old friend.
Yeah.
Scott Snyder.
Oh, okay.
So I got to give a little backstory about this one. Scott Snyder has been on the ODPH. He will be coming back on at some time later this year. We have to finalize some dates. But we went to the line at his table in Artist Alley first. Greg Capullo was supposed to be there, but he was tied up doing prior commitments, which this happens. Like,
sure.
At New York Comic Con,
New York's a busy place.
Yeah, when we always say in wrestling, cards subject to change, that's what really happens here.
Plus traffic and everything else.
Yeah, so it was kind of a little crazy that early in the morning, but I know they were tied up doing interviews left and right, him and Scott. And Scott came down running in, and obviously we were kind of very high in line.
Sure.
And when we saw him, I was like, hey, Scott, I'm Ken from the OD. Didn't even let me finish. He's like, dude, thank you so much for all you do. Like, he remembered, he heard the voice.
That's awesome.
Talking with him, definitely was doing some signings. We waited like about 2 hours because we went up to cover another panel, and then came back to the Comixology line because him and Jacques were signing posters for the Book of Evil, which just came out can't stress enough about how good that book is, too. It will chill you to the bone, but it is a great read. So we're in line at Comixology, met up with our guy, Dre Driven.
All right, yeah.
As we're going in line, and I will tell this story all the time, we go in. Jock is the first one I see. Scott is right next to him. Go introduce myself to Jock, and all of a sudden Scott just leans over and goes, "These guys have a great podcast. You need to check it out."
Wow.
And of course, I resort to can't speak fanboy.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Brains turned over.
Yep, because I'm just like, and Jock's like, "Oh, definitely gotta check it out." Like,
The hamsters stopped running in the wheel.
yep. And Scott was like, "Oh, funny to see you here too." And I was like, "Dude, I gotta get this book signed. Like, I gotta get this poster signed. I'll definitely be getting the trade when it comes out." And he was like, just super gracious. Like, I can't speak highly enough about Scott Snyder, and especially not just with me, but with every single fan that was there and interacted, taking the extra time, really talking. Like, that's why you go to cons, is when you go see these creators. And like, I can't stress enough, everybody we met was super gracious, and like this is the first time I met like Stephanie Phillips. I can't speak highly enough about her and the interaction, because she was so energetic about meeting and just talking. And like I say, we were having this great conversation about Grimm, and like I really want to do this on the podcast. So I'm putting like powers out to be. We're going to try making this happen. It was like one of those moments, like when you meet these creators that are doing such fantastic work, and they're just as excited to see you.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what makes it worthwhile. So that whole experience was great. And like I said, Comixology, we'll be talking about them a little later in the show, but can't speak highly enough. I really think they gave Marvel a run for the money.
I believe it.
And not to take anything away from DC, because they did some cool things as well. But it was a situation where DC had some announcements coming later, but Marvel came back and took the crown. We were in attendance for the Marvel Fanfare panel.
Okay.
So C.B. Sobalski, editor-in-chief, Nick Lowe, who does the editing for Spider-Man, and Humberto Ramos were in attendance. Jonathan Hickman was originally scheduled, but he couldn't make it for, we'll just say, reasons, but not in a mean sense. He was tied up with something else. But Humberto came in, and it was a great conversation. Like, the thing about Marvel Fanfare, it's like the Cup of Joe when that happens.
Sure.
It's just a one-on-one conversation, but in this case, it was 2-on-1 or 3 talking. And it was just about like the history of Marvel and like the fandom and just how that interacts and really gets that vibe. And it's a very cool panel to attend. Like, it doesn't matter who's there, but it's just one of those cool panels. You go and you start talking, and it reminds you why you're a fan. A lot of times we kind of forget. And especially like if you're an older reader, like, why did you get into this in the first place? Like, that kind of vibe. But it definitely delivered on that front. So it was a cool panel to go to. Going on the same time, though, was Jim Lee and Friends.
Oh, okay.
And that one, a lot of news coming out. I'm showing Pad right now. The book with Mark Silvestri doing Batman and Joker, the Deadly Duo.
I heard something about this. This seems wild.
This is absolutely wild. This it's supposed to drop November 1st.
Okay.
So 7-issue limited series. I cannot wait to pick this up. They're also doing a lot more of the Batman One Bad Days.
Okay.
But this one was Penguin. John Ridley's writing it, so he does great work. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for that when that comes out. They also were doing a Waller versus Wildstorm book too. So this is going to have a lot going on with Amanda Waller. I know Wildcats is coming out, so there's a lot of things happening. Spencer Ackerman is tied with this one as well too. I'm really waiting to see how Amanda Waller ties in against Wildstorm, but it's supposed to be like almost like an origin story.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dre was in attendance for this, and he was freaking out. So this is a big deal. Also, I was hearing more about Milestone, and they got some real cool stuff going on in 2023 too. Like, there was a lot going on at this panel, but the big mic drop for me, and I don't know about you, Pad.
Yeah.
Joe Quesada is returning to DC.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The longtime Marvel editor-in-chief.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Like, I've been here. I don't read his name actively in the comics because I usually skip over that, honestly. I hear his name a lot because he's always mentioned in all of their audio drama podcasts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here is the covers of the Batman books he's working on.
Interesting. Right
now, which it's slated for Batman 131 and 132 respectively. So that's huge news. I mean, we know that Joe Quesada has worked with DC before, and then he went to Marvel, and like we said, he's former editor-in-chief. So this is a big deal. Obviously, when he stepped down, we knew he was going to be doing something, and this is huge to see him back on the covers. This is some beautiful artwork, too. And like I say, this is a huge win for DC, so they had some big wins going on this day as well. But there was one panel that kind of overstood everybody on this day, and that is Batman, Spawn.
Okay.
Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Greg Capullo in the house talking.
Talk about a who's who of comic writers.
Yeah. The artists, dude, these are the three legends. Three legends.
Yeah.
And the fact that Todd McFarlane came in, was given a lot of information. Spawn movie is still on the way. I was playing us some voicemails from Jamie Foxx.
Oh, jeez.
So, and Jamie Foxx is like with us until the end.
Oh, I believe it.
And you can hear the hype in his voice too, so it got everybody hyped. But the big deal was they released the cover images for the Spawn Batman crossover, which is coming out December.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be released same day as the comic shops and Barnes & Nobles as well.
Interesting.
The only time that they've done that, I believe, is Detective 1000 and Action Comics 1000.
Right.
They don't do it often. Todd McFarlane is shooting a shot.
Okay.
He is claiming this will be the #1 selling book of the century.
Okay, a little early to say. Of the year? Maybe. Of the decade? Maybe. Century? Looking at the date, it's a little early.
He's shooting that shot. He said about King Spawn came out and sold 500,000.
Sure.
Which I'll be honest, didn't see that number coming.
Yeah.
And I'm not...
Yeah.
Because in my head, Spawn, obviously been around since the 90s, has cooled off significantly.
Sure.
Still a big book, still making
popular.
moves. Yeah, still popular, though. But the fact that it dropped that much, I was like, are you kidding me?
That's wild.
That freaking blew my mind. So he's saying he did not say the number it had to hit, but he was saying you factor in Spawn did this with King Spawn.
Yeah.
You now have Greg Capullo, who has been doing such noteworthy work with Batman and everything else. You're bringing him back into the fold, and it's Batman.
Yeah.
He's like, what else could you do?
Not much.
Yeah, he said the only book that he would be somewhat interested in Marvel in was involving Spider-Man, Venom, and I believe Batman. But I think when he started mentioning this, I started losing my mind because him coming back to Spider-Man would just break the internet on every single level. But there definitely has this book could be the book of the year. I will say that on record. Because when you have Capullo and McFarlane teaming up again, I mean, that has been such a long time since they've done.
Yeah.
McFarlane's, I believe, is doing the inks for this, too,
Sure.
and Greg's artwork. Like,
sure, like book of the year, in terms of like the highest selling book of the year, yes, I can see that. You know, decade, yeah, bit of a stretch. The century, though, it's a little early. Like, you know, God forbid if Marvel and DC decide to like team up and do an Avengers or Justice League book. That'll outsell everything of the century.
Yeah.
You know, like, so of the year, sure, you can make that claim. I think that's a pretty safe bet. But of the century, yeah, a little early.
Yeah, like I say, it's kind of crazy. But, I mean, McFarlane is known to shoot that shot. Like, and that's one thing that you got to appreciate about him. Like, he is not afraid to speak his mind. He's not afraid to say what he feels. And like I say, he is about as DIY as it comes. They have got it feels like a million people doing covers for this book. The J. Scott Campbell one looks absolutely fantastic. I'm showing Pad that artwork in a sec. But, I mean, and then the Capullo one, like, oh, my God, it's just so good. Like, they have got so much cool stuff going on with this. Plus, before this, they're going to combine the previous crossovers between Batman and Spawn into one book. So if you weren't familiar with that in the 90s, guess what? You get the little treat now. So super cool news coming out of that. Like, I think that was the biggest one for us on that Friday. But also, Friday night, and I will say this is probably the event of the weekend, we were invited to Fandom's party in NYC.
Ooh, nice.
So definitely want to shout out Fandom in the party, which was presented by Paramount Plus, Z2 Comics Pinfinity, and Heinz Ketchup and Ardbeg. Absolutely tore the place down. They did such a fantastic job for this party. A lot of the celebrities there were from Teen Wolf, the movie. So they had some people down there. They had from The Mandalorian, Brendan Wayne.
Oh, okay.
So he was in the house for that. Rod Roddenberry from CEO of Roddenberry Entertainment was in.
Interesting.
Yeah, they had a lot of celebrities down there, but the one that obviously I think got the most buzz from us in attendance was Ice-T was performing.
Nice.
And he absolutely killed it with Starface and Cool Keith. Chuck D was in the house too. Like it was a cool party. We've been posting images all through the week, so you definitely want to keep an eye on ODPH social media for that. But we can't thank Fandom enough for inviting us down. Like that was a really, really cool party to cap off Friday night. But yet we did not stop covering Saturday at New York Comic Con. No, we didn't decide to sleep in. Rich and I definitely braved it, along with Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming and the hashtag show. Tom's been doing some crazy stuff down there as well. We started off Saturday morning. Conversations with Scott Snyder, Jock, and Will Dennis.
I see what they did there.
Yes, they did. Comixology, this was their panel of the weekend. They did an awesome job. I love hearing Scott and Jock and the teams behind these books at Comixology, which I can't stress enough. It's worth the price of admission to get those books for Comixology Unlimited. Because, one, you can read them ahead of time and it's all digital. Two, if you love them, you can go out and buy them because most, I believe, are all getting released via Dark Horse Comics in print.
Okay.
So there's that news going on because We Have Demons is out now. Night of the Ghoul is just starting print. And I'm not sure when Clear is coming out. I believe that is coming out very soon as well. The next wave has just started, but they were all talking about the Book of Evil. And like I say, I can't stress enough. The premise of that is just an absolute insane idea, but they're making it work. And it almost kind of has like in a weird sense, a superhero vibe because it's told through the eyes of a 12-year-old boy who's really just trying to find his brother. And just the trail that goes on with this book is just absolutely phenomenal. And they did a great panel. Like, it was definitely a perfect way to kick off Saturday, so definitely want to plug that. Dre Driven was in the house for the R.L. Stein.
Oh, yeah.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
He was there for that and the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur panels.
Right.
He had a lot to say about it. He was speaking highly of those as well, so that was a big deal going on as well. DC Comics, though, had a massive panel that, Pat, I know is probably very close to your heart.
A little bit.
The new Superman format that is coming out.
Yeah.
So this one was absolutely amazing to see. Josh Williamson, Dan Jurgens, Mark Russell, Philip Kennedy Johnson, and moderator Alex Segura were all in attendance for this, talking about the love of Superman, talking about a lot of crazy directions that the books are now going in. The big news breaking out of this is they're going back to the triangle format of the 90s.
Interesting.
So it's a throwback of throwbacks. I marked out because this is where I really started getting into Superman.
Okay.
So there is some big news going on with this. Arguably, the biggest noise coming out of this is the Jonathan Kent book, which is done by Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Is now going to be transitioning into Adventures of Superman.
Interesting.
So they're taking it back to the old school title of that. I love the idea for this. And he's going to be taking on Ultraman. So if you know anything going on with Jonathan Kent, you know why that name is very important. Action Comics is going to be kind of rolling out like a new format, which they're going to have 3 stories going on. For Philip Kennedy Johnson's going to be writing one, Dan Jurgens is doing one, and Leah Williams is joining the Superman team and doing one as well. So really cool stuff coming on with that. That is going to be dropping on Action Comics 1051. 1050 is when he comes back out of Dark Crisis. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But the biggest one that caught me, and anytime that there's a new Superman book, you know it's huge. There's a new Superman monthly that is going to be dropping by Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell. That book sounds absolutely crazy, and I am all in about this book. I think there was so much Superman love in this room. Like I say, a lot of times we forget why Superman's cool. And I know he's your favorite superhero.
Oh, absolutely.
And we always kind of forget, like, it's cool to be the Boy Scout. Like, everybody likes being super edgy and super gritty. And you know, it doesn't need that all the time in comics. So to see that here, I thought was a very cool event. And I really thought that they did some really interesting things about the new format coming out, too. Because the Superman series, I don't want to say it's kind of lost some luster here and there, but I know when they do, like, some big events and do some really cool directions of the books, sometimes it gets a little lost in the shuffle. Because and
you got to get creative just because you got to figure the character's been around since like the 30s or whatever it is. So when you've got a character that's, you know, pushing 100 years in publishing, you know, where seemingly he's probably done everything that you can possibly think of, you know, but yet they continue to come up with different stories and new ways and new adversaries and what have you to put him in front of. You know, sometimes you got to get creative just to keep the old train going.
Yeah, absolutely. Also going on Saturday, I wasn't able to get to this panel because of scheduling conflict, but the Marvel Voices, the World Outside Your Window panel was going on. So they did have some announcements going on. There's a new Marvel Voices, Wakanda Forever, they'll be coming out. And they did announce about 3 new series, a limited series they're going to be coming out.
Okay.
Bloodline, Daughter of Blade.
Okay.
So that's done by Danny Lore, and the art is going to be done by Karen Darbois.
Okay.
So that is one to be looking. That looked absolutely incredible. Silver Surfer Ghost Light.
Interesting.
By John Jennings and Valentina Delarangelo. This looks absolutely crazy. Like, I am just blown away by the character design.
Right.
And where the story is going to go, obviously, if it's involving the Silver Surfer, it's going to be somewhere out there.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it.
Literally and physically.
Yep. And the other book that they really mentioned that caught my eye, Bishop War College, #1 by Jay Holtman and Sean Damian Hill. Covers by Ken Lashley. This looks awesome, too. I'm a super big Bishop fan from way back when in the 90s, so I was super excited to hear everything going on with this. I wish I made the panel, but like I said, it was a scheduling conflict going on as well. And then we had Marvel's next big thing. Like I say, they showed up for this. And to sum up, they actually released their news like the MCU.
Okay.
There is a comic slate
Yeah.
of events going on. Like, how cool is this?
It's cool, and it's helpful for the fans. I know Star Wars has done this for some of their books and comics coming out. I think it might be an all Disney thing that they've been doing. Because, like I said, I know Star Wars. I think it was either for one of the panels they did for this, or maybe it was one at San Diego. I can't remember which, but they did something similar for their books. And because with the Star Wars books, there's this whole High Republic thing that's going on, and so there's adult books, young adult books, middle grade books, comics, and it's like you want to read them all. Where do they all fit? So if you get the screenshot, you can keep track.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And I thought it was really cool they did this because they had a lot of news breaking about this. Avengers Assemble is going to be Jason Aaron's swan song to the Avengers run he's been on, and that's nearly 5 years. It feels like yesterday with him.
Yeah.
Like he just left Thor and did Avengers. But they're going to be tying that in. I can't wait to see what happens there. The one that really caught my eye, though, was Dark Web. And that is Madeline Pryor and Ben Reilly.
Oh, your favorite person?
I know. It's clones taking over the world here. So Chasm and the Goblin Queen are going to be taking on Spider-Man and the X-Men. And this looked crazy. They did have a little animated video for it. And it looked absolutely just insane what is going on here. So I'm definitely excited about that. Also, there's going to be a Gold Goblin coming out that apparently Norman Osborn has now gone to the Power of Good. Yeah, Pat.
I buy that for about as far as I can throw it.
I'm not stuttering about that when I said that.
I don't think it's going to last very long. And I don't mean that for it's going poorly. They had to reverse direction. No, I think it's a means to an end.
It's going to be something about that is just going to absolutely blow some people away. And like I said, the cover image looks amazing. He's flying by. It looks like the high-rise building. I want to say the Empire State Building, but it's somewhere where windows are, and you can see the reflection of the Green Goblin in the mirror of the gold. It's just such a cool image. A new Red Goblin book will be coming out too, and Hallows Eve is coming out as well too. That is one that everybody is really talking about. She should be the next big thing from Marvel. Erica Schultz and Michael Dowling are going to be doing the book in March, and this has got one that everybody was super amped up about. So. Definitely want to keep an ear out for that. Apparently, it's a character that's already been in the MCU for a little bit, so whatever's going to happen there is going to be something to really, really keep an eye on for. And then they go to the Sins of Sinister. So this looks like they're going to tie it back into the days of Age of Apocalypse. So they did announce that there was a few titles that are going to be switching over, Legion of X is going to be switching over to Nightcrawlers. X-Men Red is going to be switching to a Storm-led team book. This one, I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go with it. And then you have Immortal X-Men are going to be becoming Immoral X-Men.
Oh, boy.
And basically, it's what Sinister has done in this entire new age of the X-Men is coming back to haunt them. So,
of course it is.
But it looked fantastic, though. I mean, that's the one cool thing about this is the fact that they're going that route is going to be something insane. Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants, that's the name of the book. I knew it was super long, but that's what's going to be taking over for X-Men Red. Definitely excited to see what's playing out here. Obviously, they talked about Captain America Cold War. So that is coming November, December, January, and then spring. Next summer is the summer of the symbiotes. Venom, Carnage, and Red Goblin is returning. There's a new Red Goblin book. It's not apparently Norman. There's a lot of speculation about who it could be. I am not going to go there, but we're going to find out. And then last but not least, and this is the one that Jerry Dugan, the writer of X-Men, was in attendance for. And basically entitled The X-Men Have Been Winning a Lot. It's time for that to change. Fall of X next summer as well. And it just sounds like Kuroka is done. So whatever that means, if this is the official end of the X-Men storyline, it's going to be something to definitely keep an eye out for. They also teased a Guardians of the Galaxy event going on in March, and it's basically entitled "How Do You Rebuild a Family?" And it's a broken Star-Lord pendant. And,
Interesting.
And somebody yelled out too, "Is that Groot?" Because it looked wooden.
Jesus.
Like, yeah, the crowd was definitely into this one.
Jesus.
So I don't know what to speculate on that one, but I know that we're definitely going to be covering that. Like, that just looked absolutely wild to me about this. So that was really kind of topping off Saturday for us. And then Sunday, just kind of a quick hits because we weren't in attendance. The DC Batman panel definitely was bringing a lot of energy, talking about the Batman books in Gotham City. The Tim Drake Robin one out right now, hearing a lot of hype behind. Have not dived into that one just yet. Definitely excited about that. You also had Titans and Doom Patrol. They had a big panel on the main stage. So that looked like that's going to be something to really, really be checking out. Obviously on HBO Max when they're coming back. They did see the footage for the new season of Titans. I think that looks really good.
Okay.
I'm not like going to say crown them, they're back. It's going to be a whole new show, but it's definitely going to have a cool vibe to it. Major casting news that I know you were super into.
Yeah, that's Tom Welling is joining the Winchesters prequel show.
Yes, which just debuted, I believe,
this
past week.
757,000 people watched it, I think, which made it like one of the top debuts on CW Network since like I forget what year.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz coming out of this panel. Like really, people were super excited about the show coming out. And last but not least, and I gotta say, Marvel did it again. The Women of Marvel panel definitely had a lot of news coming out. There's going to be a new X-23 Deadly Regenesis series by Erica Schultz and Edgar Salazar. That's coming out in March. A new Betsy Braddock Captain Britain book by Teenie Howard and Erica Durso. And Velasco Jorvi. I apologize if I butchered the name. And then the one that really caught me, like I say, I'm an old school 90s X-Men fan. Rogue and Gambit #1, art by Carlos Gomez, and then written by Stephanie Phillips. Take my money now. I'm here for this. And that was pretty much like everything from New York that really stood out to us. So, Pad, hearing all this, I know you're the outsider looking in. Mm-hmm. Who do you think really won New York?
Everybody. It's hard to pick just one just because there wasn't any one thing. There isn't one thing that sticks out going, oh, this was better than everything else. I think it was just an overall case of like everybody had a strong game and everybody contributed to make a very good New York Comic Con this year.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think, like, I don't want to crown Marvel. Like, Marvel had a great presentation the entire week, and we thank them for, all the information they were hooking us up with as fans. Like I say, there was so much, like, it reminded me about why the comics matter more than the movies, in my opinion. Like I would say, comics rule everything. The DC panels, which we were told about, phenomenal information, too. I really think they came with a strong presence.
Which is nice, just because the last couple of years that I've gone, it feels like the Marvel Comics panels were much better than the DC ones. They're like, the DC ones were there, but like it wasn't really anything like earth-shattering.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, but I think this year they really came with it, and we appreciated them sending us the press releases, let us know about what was going on, too, with Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and allowing us to come down and cover Mortal Kombat, too. I thought Warner Brothers really had a strong presence the entire weekend. I'm really going to say that. I should say Warner Brothers Discovery. I got to be a real official. I thought they did a phenomenal job. Can't put over fandom enough. I thought that they were super, super fan-friendly with everything. Yeah. That whole party, if you weren't in attendance, I'm sorry. That was a highlight of Con, and I hope they do that again next year because I definitely want to get back in there. Fandom is doing some big things. I know they've been acquiring some properties lately, too.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that a little later in the months here, so definitely stay tuned about that. And seriously, can't stress enough, I want to say the booth that won it for me was Comixology. I think for a fan presentation, they always had something new going on. The lines were definitely one that you could get in very easily to meet your creators, talk to them. They had a lot of the people that are on the Comixology line just come down. And like I say, Scott Snyder was there multiple times. Stephanie Phillips was there. Dan Panelson was there as well. And just the plethora of talent that they have on that line is just amazing, and I can't put it over enough, and I thought that they did such a stellar job too. Like I say, they were giving out a lot to fans that you weren't seeing anywhere else. It was just such a great time to be a fan of comics, and that's what we take away with. We are super thankful for everybody who gave us the press access for it. We appreciate you all, and we're definitely coming back next year, and we're coming back with a vengeance if we get that press badge. Just putting that out there. That being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your takeaways from New York Comic Con 2022? What panel stood out to you? Was there something that we missed that you want to talk about? What do you think about the Marvel announcements, the DC Comics ones, the Comixology? Let's talk about NYCC, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to The Caption Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. You can also check out our website, www.thecaptionlife.com, to find out where you can listen to us, a list of all of our episodes, and where you can find us on social media under the username @CaptionLife. You'll get a new episode from us every week, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it is penultimate time. It is a big deal. What happened this past week on She-Hulk, Attorney at Law?
Matt Murdock finally showed up, and they decided to put the clip out like a day beforehand just to say to the fucks on the internet, and yes, you are a bunch of fucks, hey, he's coming. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I have to say, She-Hulk surprised me that they're doing that. Like, did you really need to give a reason to do this? Like, I would have just held on to that clip as long as possible.
Well, this show is very self-aware with how people's reaction to it is, from the reviews to people's online complaints. The fact that we've had now at least 2 or 3 instances of the show of online negative feedback towards the She-Hulk. This show is very self-aware, and I love it.
Yeah, I got to give him that credit. I mean, obviously, the show has been very polarizing among some fans. I think most people have been very accepting of it because it's not like everything we see. Mm-hmm. They break the fourth wall. They've been doing it longer than Deadpool, so just keep that in mind when we're having these debates on social media, folks.
Well, and I know people are excited for Daredevil to show up, but last I checked, it wasn't Daredevil Attorney at Law. It's She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
Right, but the thing about it that they have, and I guess we'll just kind of go into the spoiler-free statement. If you're new to the ODPH, we'd like to give a spoiler-free statement about the show, and then we'll give you a countdown if you have to duck out because you haven't seen spoiler or you don't want to be spoiled, and obviously we go deep diving into episodes, so we give you that fair warning if you need to duck out. That said, spoiler-free time. The fact that this show with Tatiana Maslany playing the title role has really been on a different level. And when it was teased that Daredevil was coming to this show, everybody got super excited because obviously when he made his cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home, everybody lost their mind.
The Netflix universe isn't dead!
Yeah, so people were just completely marking out. People were completely marking out about that. And
take a fucking Valium, people.
There's just such a fever pitch about this, which I understand as fans. Like, be excited.
Yeah.
But what we have to remember is, in this new era of comics coming to TV, most do follow veins of the stories that they come from print-wise.
Yep.
She-Hulk borrows a lot from the Dan Slott run. Borrows a lot from John Byrne.
Sure.
It is not meant to be what you saw on Netflix, and obviously seeing Daredevil appear, we weren't sure what version we were going to see.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is like, with the comics, there are certain characters who like to cross over with other characters a lot. And given the fact that, Jennifer Walters and Matt Murdock are both lawyers, ergo, you will see them cross over in the comics a lot. Hey, it's part of the job and it's part of what they do. They don't cross over every single fucking week.
Yeah, exactly.
Or every month or whatever, however frequent the issue may come out. You don't go 6 straight months of She-Hulk comics with, however many issues of Matt Murdock showing up in every single issue. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, so it is something that fans need to recognize, and I know that everybody's super excited about the Daredevil cameo that was teased from before the series aired. We finally got it because Marvel, like you touched upon, released the clip out a day before. So everybody was going to tune in, and I know they wanted to silence the
naysayers.
Yeah, I guess that's a nice way to put it. That were freaking out because Daredevil hadn't appeared there yet.
It's only got 2 episodes left. Why isn't Daredevil showed up yet? It's fucking She-Hulk, not Daredevil.
Exactly. And if you've been watching the show, you knew he was coming at some point. They teased it enough. So we finally got that episode. That said, you want to just go right into spoilers?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so in 3, 2, 1, Pad, what did you think?
Thought it was a good episode. Finally got to see Daredevil, which was exciting to see. I know some people are pissed because that's not my Daredevil. My Daredevil is super serious and brooding and evil. But fuck you. I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was fun. I'll say this. Oh God, the guy actor who plays him. I'm blanking on
Charlie Cox.
Thank you. Charlie Cox and Tatiana Maslany have great chemistry together on screen.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like a freakishly good amount of chemistry on screen together. You know, so I would like to see them in things more together, just because they pair really well together. You know, but the episode was really interesting, and to see where they go next week, because they have released a clip. I won't give spoilers of what it is. You don't really get the clip. There's a clip online.
Yeah, I've been ducking it because I don't want to see it.
Well, you don't get much from it. It's one of those clips like, okay, given how the story has been going, you're like, okay, I kind of saw this coming. You know, to see where they go with this, it's going to be very interesting.
Forget Daredevil. We got Leapfrog. I know Mike.
We got jet fuel.
I know Mike and Zach from the Multiverse of Badness marked out, and they deserve their flowers because they have been campaigning for Leapfrog to make an appearance in the MCU. Salute to you guys. And by the way, if you're not following their podcast, you need to, because it is one of the most badass podcasts you're going to listen to at any given time.
I'm just going to say Marvel or Twitter or whoever's involved with creating the emojis next to the hashtags, missed opportunity to not make one for him.
Oh, it's coming. There's no way. I know those guys will be campaigning for that, and we are going to co-sign on that, because this episode kicks off with Jennifer Walters having to represent the one and only Leapfrog, who we're not sure exactly, is he trying to be a vigilante? Is he trying to be part of the crime spree? Because as he tries acquiring the funds from two robbers, as it appears.
Well, I think it's not even trying to acquire the funds. I think it's just he's trying to take advantage of the whole superhero thing. You know, it's the popular avenue of work, I guess you could say. You know, a lot of people are jumping in on it. You know, it's like YouTube in the early to mid 2000s. You know, he's trying the whole thing. He's going to stop a robbery. He shows up and he's got, I don't even want to say a modest amount of, martial arts skills. It's like, beginner's level of martial arts skill. He can do some kicks and he can try to do a flip. It's not very successful, but he tries to stop these two robbers who basically, like, he does these shitty karate moves or martial arts moves. And they basically look at the guy and like, who the fuck are you?
It reminds me of that old Nas commercial. You see the guy doing all the karate flips, whatever, and then he runs at the guy and then he gets knocked out. It's kind of like that vibe, which, I mean, Brendan Staley, who played Leapfrog,
he did a great job.
Hammed it up, man. Kudos to you. And, yeah, he only gets stopped because his suit, the boots don't work.
Well, so he's getting his ass kicked, and he's like, and I think at one point he even yelled tactical retreat, because he's laying on the ground on his back, and he goes, tactical retreat. So he presses this button on his suit that activates these jet boosters around his ankles, and he goes sliding off backwards, and he takes off into the air a little bit, and then he catches fire and crashes to earth.
Yes, it is one of the most epic scenes ever. I was dying laughing when this happened, because it's just so over the top. I mean, then again, so is the villain of Leapfrog, or Frogman, however you want to define him. My God, did they pull that off, though?
It's not even a B-list hero. It's like C or D.
Oh, it's on that bottom shelf of bottom shelves, man. But there's just something about those old school Daredevil, Spider-Man villains from the 70s.
It's like if you call a hotline, like you need a superhero. Oh, hey, I need some help from a superhero. And like he shows up. It's like, really? Can we get anybody else? Like Squirrel Girl? Like even Batroc the Leaper? Like, can we get anybody?
I was hoping we got Stiltman. That was the only thing. I'm so pissed we haven't gotten him yet. Like that is my all-time like D-list of D-list.
There'll be a reference at some point.
It's got to be. But then he decides to take the maker of said suit, who we find out is Luke Jacobson, played by Griffin Matthews, the tailor of She-Hulk, to court for faulty equipment.
Well, and so because he's a quote-unquote superhero, he goes to Jennifer Walters' law offices because they have a superhero division. I'm willing to bet they're probably one of the only ones in Los Angeles who have a superhero division.
Facts, I'll give you that.
They haven't said, but it's pretty easy to draw conclusions here. And he wants her to represent him because she's the head of the superhero division. And hey, I'm a superhero. You should represent me. And she's like, this is awful. Why would I do this? And I think it's even, and I forget what exactly he said, so I'm paraphrasing here. But her boss essentially tells her, like, hey, his parents are wealthy benefactors of this law office. You have to take this case.
Yeah, and she's trying to get out of it anyway. Conflict of interest because the tailor.
Well, yeah, because she finds out who the tailor is, and the tailor, Luke Jacobson, is in the process of making her gala dress for this L.A. lawyer award ceremony that's coming up at like the end of the week or on Saturday or whatever it is. And she's like, if I piss him off, he's not going to want to do anything for me ever again.
Yeah.
So she goes in there trying to convince him, hey, listen, I realize you're trying to do this for me, but like I got this commitment thing that I'm legally required to do, and can we settle this? Like, she's trying to find the easiest way to not involve court or judges or juries or anything else, and he's basically goes, you disrespected me, dishonor on you, dishonor on your whole family. I'm not making your dress no more.
Yes. So obviously it's such a conflict of interest. We go to court and we find out that Jacobson has acquired the services of one Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox, who comes in ever so charming.
Yeah, cool, because at first it seems like he's going to represent himself.
Yes.
And even Jennifer Walters brings this up and goes, oh, this idiot's going to represent himself. We got this in the bag. This is going to be easy. And he looks at her and goes, of course I'm not representing myself. What am I, an idiot?
Mm-hmm. So they wind up going through the court procedures as Murdoch comes in there, and she's like, what's going on?
The court procedure.
Yeah.
There's not one plural procedures, plural, no.
Because in said case, it was revealed that Leapfrog basically says he misread the instructions on the suit and used jet fuel.
Well, and they're going back and forth about this thing, and we learned one important bit of information, a little tidbit for the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large. Mm-hmm. The Sokovia Accords have been repealed.
Yes.
Which had not, to this point, we had not known. It's kind of like they've just been forgotten by the wayside. We have learned that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed, so now superheroes and heroines can act with more anonymity.
Yes. It's a wild thing that they threw in, but it was very quick. But
yeah.
Great catch on that, Pat.
Yeah.
Because when this happens, obviously, he's now made himself guilty. Jacobson is cleared of all charges. Jennifer Walters doesn't have a tailor. Later, though, she does get a phone call from a very paranoid
and distressed
Leapfrog,
yeah,
who is screaming that somebody is after him and he needs her help. And she's like,
I'm being chased. And did he call his car the Ribbit Mobile? Or am I making...
Yes, he did.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was making that up in my head.
Well, we forgot to even mention he has the most badass catchphrase, rip it and rip it.
Oh, title of the episode.
Yeah. So Jennifer Walters goes to help him in She-Hulk form and does see that his car is completely speeding out of control. She makes a quick save. An assailant goes off the top of the car, and lo and behold, in the classic costume from his origins, we have Daredevil.
Yep.
In full yellow and red.
Mostly red.
Regala, yeah. And there is some great banter back and forth.
Yeah.
And during this whole spiel, there is one thing that stood out. This is not going to be a brooding Daredevil.
Nope.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Charlie Cox knows how to smile.
He knows how to smile, and this is a credit to his acting ability, because he could have gone back into Netflix mode, which they did play the music.
They did.
We need to remember they did play the old school music.
They did.
He switched the character persona to, in the comics, the easiest way to describe it is it's the Mark Waid and Chris Samney run.
Sure.
I am fucking here for it.
And I know this was pissing people off that he wasn't the dark, brooding, serious Netflix character. Give it a fucking chance. You might end up liking this. Variety is the spice of life, folks. Mm-hmm. I as much as I enjoyed the Daredevil show, and I love the Daredevil show, I like this rendition of it just because not everything has to be, 60 minutes of brooding, serious, woe is me with Nirvana playing in the background.
Yeah.
This was nice to see. I like to see him crack a smile and show some, color in his life.
This is something that in the comics we don't see that often, but when it's done, it's
Sure.
well, because we have to remember, like, when he first started out in the Stan Lee days.
Sure.
He was more charming, swashbuckling.
Sure.
I don't want to say happy-go-lucky, but let's be honest. It wasn't as dark and brooding as it's been. Now, when Frank Miller took the book over, I really think it hit its grit turn. And there's nothing wrong with it. The grit turn was nothing absolutely bad.
Sure.
But I think that you have to write Daredevil one of two ways. Either you make him dark and brooding or you make him a swashbuckler. Seeing this incarnation on screen, I thought was refreshing.
Yeah.
I was super excited about.
Oh, me too.
Because there are some great stories to be had, and it takes nothing away from him as a character.
Right, and that's one of the things I think with this rendition is, as of yet, we don't know. Obviously, he's an established hero. He's got the suit. He's not exactly fumbling with his powers or his abilities. Mm-hmm. But what he's been doing up to this point, we don't know. I would presume that there might have been some major, semi-major incidents, but nothing of the level that's like, holy shit, half of New York is in danger.
Yeah.
You know, so presumably it's just kind of been some low-level stuff, some organized crime back in New York, but it's nothing crazy. So you think about it, he's gone from just like, oh, I'm you know, the devil of Hell's Kitchen. I'm stopping some crime. I'm breaking up some crime families, you know, and some crime syndicates back in New York too. I'm representing Spider-Man in quite possibly the biggest court case in U.S. court history.
Right.
And then I'm also going to represent, so that was in, you know, and then 6 months or more later, because we don't know how much time has passed between No Way Home and this, No Way Home in the fall, this, you know, probably the spring, maybe it's even sooner. I don't know. But so he goes from representing Spider-Man to representing a fashion designer for the superheroes and then fighting another version of the Hulk.
Yes.
So he goes from mid-level, even low-level, you know, crime fighting to I'm dealing with Avengers.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting play that he does, but like we see when he goes and meets up with Jennifer in the bar beforehand, and they kind of have that repertoire before. Like, you know, this is going to be a different Charlie Cox Daredevil than you've seen.
Yep.
And it's great. It works, and you touched upon the chemistry they have is phenomenal.
Oh, it's incredible.
Oh my God, yeah. Like, I need to see more of this. Like, and I hope that She-Hulk does a crossover in Born Again. I really do.
I could see it.
But I think where they really just kind of stride is you do have the lawyer persona, and they're going back and forth, and you can definitely feel the realness there.
Oh, yeah.
Now that they're both in their superhero persona, we find out that Leapfrog has kidnapped Jacobson, and
we find out that She-Hulk wasn't given the entire story.
Right, so they have to go make the play to rescue him from, you know, the pad.
Mm-hmm, the lily pad.
Oh, my God.
Which his hideout, his lair, quote-unquote, has it in giant fucking neon sign on top of a warehouse.
I'm not going to lie. I had Batman Forever vibes. Like Jim Carrey, Riddler,
yeah.
I swear I was like, oh my God, like, are we going this route?
Yeah, because like we said, we find out, you know, Jennifer Walters is like, oh yeah, no, hey, why are you chasing my client? Why are you hunting him down? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm hunting him down because he kidnapped my client. Wait, really? He didn't tell me this? Well, of course he didn't tell you this.
Yeah, so the plan, and they work out their thing, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to be stealth and break in. She's like,
it's going to take me 15 minutes to get through this.
Yeah, and she's
like, I can just smash through.
Yeah, so the back and forth between them was fantastic. How he drops in, though.
Hallway. I literally said he dropped into a hallway. I was watching the episode, and I set up, I did the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing to the screen, and I went, hallway scene, hallway scene, hallway scene.
Same. I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, we're going hallway. We're going hallway. Oh, that's such a Netflix staple.
Oh, it is.
Oh, my God, it is. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, but God bless it. And you see Daredevil go back into full fighting mode. It's a great scene, so if anybody was worried about this new Daredevil not being able to kick some ass.
Only thing I didn't like is it wasn't one continuous shot. My only drawback with that.
Yeah, you know, but
that's all right. But it was still amazing.
But you know what? If they did that, I think it would have taken away too much.
Maybe.
Like, that's the only reason I think, because you don't want to overshadow She-Hulk when she makes her dramatic entrance and comes in, and they wind up saving the day and obviously beating Leapfrog. And then they wind up freeing Jacobson, who is now going to become her tailor again.
Well, and this is all with Leapfrog going to Jennifer and going, what are you doing? You're supposed to be representing me. And she's like, listen, dumbass.
Yeah.
Here's what you're going to do. And she lays out this whole series of, you know, X, Y, and Z he's got to do. And she's like, because otherwise he's going to sue your ass and you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. It's a great play on. And then they leave.
And I got to just remember, I love the one bit, though, where she's telling Leapfrog this. And all the while, Daredevil's fighting in the background. He's giving legal advice. And Leapfrog goes, what is this guy, a lawyer? And he goes, I watch a lot of crime dramas.
Yeah, oh, it was perfect. It was perfect. I forgot about that part, but yeah, you're right. It was perfect. But that goes into the humor that you see. And like I say, Daredevil can pull this off. He doesn't quip as much as Spider-Man, but but when he throws them in, they're good. And then they're sitting on top of the roof, and then basically Jennifer Walters is back in the Jennifer Walters form, talking with Matt Murdock, and she's basically like, the chemistry has been there since the beginning, and she's saying, like, how soon do you have to get back to New York? They wind up hooking up. He does the walk of shame the next morning.
In costume,
which is hysterical.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They did it, and I just missed it. I would have loved to see it, like, out of the corner of the screen, like through the blinds on the window. Mm-hmm. That would have been funny.
Yeah, but I mean, it goes to Daredevil's motif, man. He is, I believe the popular term, a himbo at heart.
Yeah.
I know online has been running with that, so listen, it is what it is. He is a Lothario, if you will. But I digress. We go back to the story. Jennifer Walters is now getting ready to win an award for Lawyer of the Year.
Well, so her friend,
or Female Lawyer of the Year.
So her friend shows up, the coworker, and she's like, "Hey, we got to do your hair. We got to get ready." And Jennifer looks at the screen, going, "Well, wait, why is this episode still going? That we reached a satisfying conclusion for the story for the episode. Unless, wait a minute, this is the second to last episode. We're doing the whole second to last episode thing where it's the plot twist at the end. Oh, we're doing the gala right now."
Yeah.
And then she goes to the gala.
Yeah, she goes to the gala, and then when this happens, it should be a happy moment. The family is there. She's accepting the award. She's giving a good speech, surrounded by her fellow female colleagues.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, behind this video wall, you see Angelica make an appearance, and they're trying to embarrass her completely because with Josh, the boyfriend that she was with, taped them doing some things.
Yeah.
They're now showing it completely on the screen, and she goes into Hulk rage.
Well, yeah, and this is with her coworker, the other lawyer from the office, looks at her and says, "Jen, don't." But then she punches the screen, destroying it, all the while everyone's running out of the building. And she exits the building to an armed SWAT team with automatic rifles and with laser sights all pointed at her. And she puts her hand up and just goes, "Oh."
Yeah. Did you recognize who that group was?
No.
The speculation is it's Damage Control from Miss Marvel.
Ooh. I could see it.
And that's how the episode ends.
I could see, because Damage Control was in the first part of the season, or no?
No, they weren't.
What the hell were they in, though? They're
in Miss Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
They were chasing Kamala Khan.
I was trying to remember. I was confusing. I wanted to say No Way Home or Far No Way Home, but no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel, yeah.
Yeah, they're looking for Kamala. So that being said, that's an interesting tie-in if that's true. I did not recognize it, but I was getting hit up on social media saying that's Damage Control. I'm going, wait a sec. Like that's kind of a weird connection here. But now going into the final episode, all bets are off, really.
Yeah.
Because I think the only thing I think we'll know for sure is we'll find out who the leader is of Intelligencia. I think I might have just tipped it off with the name of it because I'm going with what Ron said from 3FN. I think it's the leader. I think this is going to tie into New World Order.
Could be.
I'm not sure how, but I think that this is how it's going to play in because with that group involved, I don't think this is going to be one and done.
No.
I think that maybe we'll get lucky and we'll hear about an announcement of season 2 get mentioned. I know that it's been teased about Moon Knight. Oscar Isaac at New York Comic Con did, I guess, tease something about that. So I'm not doubting that the next wave of shows, which we have to remember, this is the third one of that group that came out, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk, getting picked up for season 2s. I'm not doubting that we hear something come out of this, but I think for what we're expecting from She-Hulk, I think we're going to have a solid ending. I just don't know where we're going.
Yeah, no, it's going to be... I obviously, we're going to try the whole Intelligencia, whatever it is. We're going to have to figure out who's behind all that and figure out that. So I think they might get shut down, quote unquote, for this portion of the season. Whether they make a comeback or not, we'll see. But in terms of, we're at the season finale. We still don't know who the big bad is. So that would lead me to believe we'll obviously find out in the next episode, the final episode of the season. But that leads me to believe this will come back for a second season at some point.
I do agree too. I don't have a timetable on. Obviously, there's been some shuffling of the deck of Marvel's film slate,
which we'll get to later.
We'll get to that later. But there's a lot going on with Marvel. But the only thing we can really say is this episode hit on all cylinders. Great episode. Love seeing the Mark Waid version of Daredevil come in. And if you're not familiar with it, seriously, get on Marvel Unlimited, go to your comic shops, go pick up the trade paperback. It's well worth it. It's one of the best Daredevil runs you'll read, period. And we can have that discussion online. I know one certain Daredevil fan that is listening that maybe, just maybe, we're going to have to get on to talk some Daredevil comics with. So Sean from the Caption Life will be talking very, very shortly about that. In the meantime, though, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about this latest episode of She-Hulk entitled Rip It and Rip It? Oh my God, what a name for it. Like, I can't even say it without laughing. Hit us up. Let us know what you think. What do you think your spoilers are going into the finale? And let's talk about it. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll be right back.
Has this ever happened to you? You're in bed, drifting off, and suddenly think,
who would win in a tug-of-war match between Superboy and Merlin?
Did Marvel ever try to make a long-haul trucker into a superhero?
How would it work out if I named my dog after a D-list supervillain?
The answers in order are Merlin.
Yes.
and amazing.
I'm Jessica,
And I'm Mike.
and we host the podcast 10 Cent Takes, a show that looks at weird, silly, and cool moments from comics and how they're woven into the larger fabric of history.
Moments like the time Superman shilled for Radio Shack.
When Archie got tempted by the devil.
Oh, and then there was that time that DC Comics gave a superhero AIDS in an effort to be topical.
It's always weird around here, but we'd like to think it's also interesting.
So come with us and commit random acts of pop culture archaeology, one issue at a time.
If you'd like to learn more, head over to 10centtakes.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And man, oh man, do we have to recap House of the Dragons, the spinoff of Game of Thrones. Wow, this episode that aired on HBO Max got the buzz of the internet going. I agree with Julio from the Contrarians podcast. You definitely got to go check them out. I think this might have been the best episode of the season thus far.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's a lot of stuff that happened in episode 8 entitled Lord of the Tides. Pad, spoiler-free statement.
I don't know how I avoided spoilers for this, simply because due to a series of circumstances called life, I was not able to watch this episode when it aired or dropped on HBO Max on Sunday. You know, hey, it's on me. Just life got in the way. I was not able to do it. Monday or Tuesday. And so, I had to watch it the day we recorded because I'm like, well, we're going to talk about it. So I got to watch it. And given what happens in this episode, I don't know how I made it to this point without seeing any spoilers, because there's some big stuff that happens in this episode. There's some major chess pieces, I guess you could say, that got moved around on the old chessboard. How I made it to this day without getting spoiled, I have no fucking clue. I didn't go my full I'm going to mute hashtags on Twitter.
Right.
Like I do for Marvel movies or Star Wars movies. I don't have anything muted. I didn't see anything in I went into comments on some stuff. I didn't see anything spoiled in the comments. No YouTube videos spoiled it for me. I don't know how I made it to this point, but holy fuck, this was awesome.
This was incredible. They could have ended the season on this and I've been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
As I say once and I'll say again, Matt Smith is the best character on the show.
Yeah.
At me at ODPH Podcast, I will debate you all day about this. He made this episode with one very, very big moment. But I thought that the acting really drove home the point. The only thing that I don't like about it is we do too many time jumps.
Yeah, thought we were done with that.
I did too. I think if you're going to do that, if you're going to really dabble with that timeline, space them out. Take a week off. Because
we've done one? We've done at least 4 in the first 8 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. I understand that you're on a borrowed time, so to speak. I know the series isn't going past 3 if it makes it that far.
Well, according to George R. R. Martin, he says they're going to need to do at least 4 seasons of 10 episodes apiece to get the story done.
Really?
George R. R. Martin. Now, this isn't confirming this is what they're going to do, but he says if they want to do the story justice, they're going to. George R. R. Martin himself said, and I think they're going to listen to him because given how the fact the last fucking series went. Enough said. George R. R. Martin has said that they're going to need to do at least 4 seasons of 10 episodes apiece to tell the full story.
Well, you know what? I'm okay with it as long as the quality is like this episode. I have no problem with this. I think this is the best one they've done thus far.
Oh, yeah, hands down. Spoiler-free
talk is done. So, Pat, let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. Talk to me.
Like I said, outside of another time jump, just because, and having watched it on HBO Max a couple of days later, and I watched the full behind the scenes thing, I understand why they did it. They did the time jump. They, one of the producers said that, just to get Rhaenyra's kids up to the age they needed to be, which I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But the fact that we've had now at least 4, and I could be wrong, so hashtag ODPH pod if I'm wrong. But the fact that we've had at least 4 of these in the first 8 episodes is, a few too many, in my opinion. So outside of the time jump, it was a phenomenal episode. That it felt like, it felt like a powder keg in a room full of gunpowder with the fuse lit and the fuses creeping ever closer to that powder keg, and we were just waiting for it to blow, and it felt like it finally did in this episode.
Off with your head. Wow, that moment, which we will discuss, really put an exclamation point on this episode. But I agree with you. I think the time jumps are the only thing that are driving me nuts right now. Because you start getting attached to characters and you're really starting to see how everything plays out. And I understand they're trying to cover a lot of ground. I get that.
Yep.
But I think they can go an easier route to do that. It's just, it sometimes gets a little confusing about who everybody is at these stages when they do the jumps, because where we go with this episode, it's now 6 years since the last jump.
Yep. Well, no, since the last episode.
Or since the last episodes. So things have been moving somewhat quickly. We do know that Corlys Verlon got into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
That obviously the Lord of Driftmark is very, very hurt from fighting. And his brother there is really trying to get the future of the family taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So Sir Vermont is trying to get King's Landing to just name the heir to the throne and make it Rhaenyra's kid. And obviously there's just a lot that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just messy to say.
Yeah.
But we do start getting into a lot of the behind the scenes of what's going on here with the family. That Rhaenyra and Daemon, well, they're still doing Rhaenyra and Daemon things.
Yeah. Getting real weird.
Yeah, it's getting real weird, but like we've accepted it. Well, I've had
Reasons.
So I've kind of been okay with it since then. But like anytime you start dealing with this family and what they're doing, and like I say, Emma Darcy and Matt Smith,
Gets messy.
it gets real messy. It does, and there's no way to duck around it. It just is what it is. But their family is really trying to keep the house together because the king is not doing well.
It's looking even worse than he did last time.
I will say this. I know I've been critical on this show about the writing for King Varys, who's played by Paddy Considine. I thought this was his best episode by far.
Oh, easily.
By far and away, I thought
Give him an Emmy nomination.
the makeup job they did for him.
Phantom of the Opera vibes.
Jesus Christ, man.
Like, I know I made the joke last week that he looked like the Crypt Keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Christ, he looked even more like the Crypt Keeper this week, but then you mix the Crypt Keeper with Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And I'm talking the actual Phantom.
Yeah, they do some real crazy stuff with him in this, and he is just looking decrepit as all hell.
I can't help but wonder if maybe they consulted, because this is the first name that comes to mind when you want somebody to look real creepy and gross. I can't help but wonder if they maybe didn't give Greg Nicotero a call and go, hey, we want to do this. What do you think we should do?
Well, it makes you wonder a little bit.
Yeah.
It does. Because, like I say, when everybody's trying to petition about, King's Landing and who's going to be the heir, and like I said, Sir Vermont wants to be the heir. Sorry, I think I might have missaid that a little earlier. Because when the argument is about Rhaenyra's kids not being legitimate,
Because this is still a thing.
this is still happening.
Yeah.
The king is sitting there basically trying to oversee everything going on, but
Right.
obviously he's out of commission.
Failing health. He is like one sneeze away from keeling over.
Yeah, even though like his powers are taken away from him
Yeah.
by Queen Alicent and the Hand of the King, Sir Hightower.
Well, it's like every time he coughs, he gets hauled out of the room.
Yeah, which, I mean, he should be at this stage. Like, half his face is falling off.
Yeah.
He has to wear that Phantom of the Opera mask you're talking about
Yep.
when he's out in public.
Yep.
Alicent, who Olivia Cook has really stepped her game up for this, has been playing the fake supportive wife, meanwhile scheming behind the scenes to the letter. She has been phenomenal in this. And as she's taking over the house, she is really trying to make sure that Rhaenyra is not going to be involved. Like, some way, somehow, this is just not happening, even though her kids are a bunch of screw-ups. Prince Aegon assaults one of the maidens in the house.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much a fucking scumbag.
Yeah, and then the mother, and so Allison confronts him about this, and he's laying in bed half naked, covered with the covers over, and she confronts him about this. He's asleep, and he's like, "Well, what did I do?" And she's like, "You fucking knew what you did. You're bringing disrespect on you, and you're making you and your wife look bad." Oh, whatever. It was just a bit of fun. She shouldn't have gone running anyway. It's like he couldn't give any less fucks.
Yeah, her kids are just the worst.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately. Like,
yeah.
they just suck.
Yeah, they do.
Like, there's no redeeming factor. It's like Joffrey is just spawned into, like, 3 kids, and they're all Alicent's.
Yeah.
Just literally, like, I'm sorry. Like, there's no redeeming factor of all of them. They all fucking suck. And she's trying to make sure that they become the royal family of the kingdom. And it's basically like, no, they're not. So Rhaenyra is trying to balance this out because what she wants to do is she is trying to work some arranged marriages. And this is just not working under any circumstance. And when she's trying to go to Princess Rhaenys to get her support, it's not happening. Like, they're all basically like, no, this is not what we signed up for, because when you are sitting there basically trying to say, my family was not welcome here, and you were out there doing whatever you're doing, this is supposed to be your way that makes everything up. And it's not happening under any circumstance. Like I say, it's just kind of crazy to see this, that we now have all of this happening.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra just kind of knows that she's losing her grip on the house.
Well, and you gotta remember too, because it's only been 8 episodes, so it's been like 2 months for us. In show timeline, we've now jumped, if memory serves, at least 16 years. Since the initial plan and the initial decision was made, by King Viserys, that Rhaenyra is going to be the heir. So this has been, the proverbial 16-year waiting game of the cogs to start moving. And now that, Viserys is on death's doorbed, that like, once they mention give him milk of the poppy, I'm like, oh, he ain't long for this world, because that's the thing with the Game of Thrones universe. Once they start mentioning milk of the poppy, you're not long for this world. You're basically on borrowed time. So the pieces have started moving, and it's all coming to a head that, like, you can plan for the end and you can have all these plans for the future, but you really don't have any plans until they actually start coming to you.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations that now she's scrambling as much as she can. The marriage proposal is kind of out the window because everybody's fighting that.
Yeah.
They're now having a meeting of the minds between all the families involved. So obviously, since Corlys is off the table, you see his brother is there trying to defend the house's name.
Right, because he's like, I'm more of a brother and more of a blood relative than she is.
Yeah, and just really digging into it. And he is not pulling his punches, too, because he is just...
Phenomenal performance.
Oh, my God, man. He absolutely stepped his game up and then some for this. I can't stress this enough.
Well, especially when he gets up there and eventually it's like, I think the Hand of the King is the one overseeing things, but then Viserys shows up, and everyone's like, holy shit, he's here. And he uses like every ounce of strength he has to get up there. And he's like, hey, listen, cut the shit. These are my grandkids. They are who I say they are, and Rhaenyra is the rightful heir and blah, 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 whatever else. And he just looks at him and goes, listen, you run your house how you see fit. And I'm paraphrasing, keep your fucking paws off my house.
Yeah. He just goes completely all in about this. And I love the fact that he was just like, I don't care.
He's like, fuck your life.
Yeah.
Get out of my house.
Exactly. Because he's just basically said, like, you are doing nothing to help me and what I'm doing here. Will Johnson absolutely crushed it this episode and really brought all the intensity to the court, because he is basically saying, look, they look nothing like our family. Rhaenyra's kids are all bastards.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't stop there.
Well, he goes, and the actor even brought this up after thing. He's like, listen, it's the pink elephant in the room that, like, they look nothing like their father, and he goes, listen, these kids are, and he pauses, and Damon, Matt Smith, looks at him and just says, say it. And he goes, bastards. And he goes, and furthermore, she's a whore. And the you can hear the pin drop in the room. And so then the camera goes in front of him, and you just see a sword come out of the corner, slice his head in half to where it's all you see of the upper part of his head is his tongue. Or no, sorry, jumping ahead of myself. Viserys gets up and gets pissy, pulls the dagger out, and he goes, I'll have your tongue for that. Cuts back to Vaemon, and then he gets his head sliced in half. And you just see Daemon standing behind him, and he goes, he can keep his tongue. The body drops to the floor, and the guards start freaking out, sees his weapon, and the Daemon just goes, it's all right, I'm dropping my weapon.
No, you got that wrong, because he goes, it's Morbin time.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And he went in. I will say this, Will Johnson, after the show, had the funniest explanation for that. He's like, yeah, Matt Smith might have got me, but my back was turned.
He did say
like that was like, I was like, man, that was awesome. But you're right though, Damien is not having any of this nonsense.
Well, it's like he started talking this shit, and he called the kids a bastard. I'm like, all right, well, you're at least losing a limb. And then he called Rhaenyra a whore, and I'm like, well, that man's dead.
Yeah, it's like he just signed his death warrant. And,
signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, because Damien just does not give zero fucks about anything, and he just took hands in his own case, and then they're going out to celebrate after, because basically any challenge to the throne was just killed off right there. That nobody's coming back. Like I said, Princess Rhaenyra, her support doesn't really mean a damn thing. Obviously, since Corlys is off the table, that's gone. Vermont is definitely off the table now. So the chess pieces are getting removed. And then you have the final dinner where the Hatfields and McCoys of the Game of Thrones universe are now sitting there. Alicent's kids with Rhaenyra's kids. And you can feel that tension simmering the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And Varys is like, everybody give each other a toast. Like, welcome your family here. Because it's been 6 years since they've all seen each other.
Yeah.
And old wounds die hard.
Well, and especially earlier in the episode, when Alicent first meets Rhaenyra and Daemon after it's been 6 years. Alicent even brings this up. She's like, oh, it's so nice. Like, she even said, and Christ, I could feel the temperature drop in my apartment. Alicent goes, and I'm paraphrasing, she goes, oh, it's so nice of you to grace your presence grace your presence with us after so long.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, fuck it. And then Matt Smith, not missing an opportunity to drop the temperature even further, goes, yeah, nice of you to give us a welcome for us gracing your presence.
Yeah. They immediately start digging in. Once Viserys leaves because, well, he's too sick to stay there because his face is falling off and he's dying. Like, to see him struggle to get to the throne was something. Yeah. And obviously you knew he was on borrowed time. The fact that he held on this long, I was actually pretty surprised. It's a weird thing, but he did. But the minute he leaves, Aemond, one of Alicent's kids, does the Seth Rollins to Matt Riddle. He does the Jon Jones to Daniel Cormier. He's like, oh, he's gone? Yeah.
Fuck your life.
He basically says that to the wife of the one, and he's like,
fuck your kids.
Yep. He just goes in and just starts giving some insults, and it just kind of boils over, and then a fight breaks out between everybody.
He even punches a couple of the kids.
Yeah. He does. Like, it turns into this real family feud. Like, in real life. It's wild scene happening, but this whole episode has been building for it. And you know this family is going to be fighting the entire time until everything just kind of shifts to Viserys on his literal deathbed. And he's talking about the dream of Aegon the Conqueror. Yep. Which Alicent is sitting and hearing this, and she's thinking, well, they're talking about her kid.
Right, and they brought up after the episode that, Viserys thought he was talking to Rhaenyra. Yeah. Not Alicent. He didn't know Alicent was in the room. He thought it was Rhaenyra.
Exactly. So
because Rhaenyra has, and that's the point they made after the episode, that Rhaenyra's heard, the song of Fire and Ice. Alicent's never heard it, so she has no clue whatever this is about.
Yeah, so it's a situation like that you're kind of going, okay, what are we doing here? So now the seed has been planted for the misdirect here, and then you see that Tyla is overhearing everything.
Oh yeah,
and she is now telling Mysteris, who has the connection to Daemon,
of course,
all this information. Meanwhile, the parting shot is a decrepit Viserys dying right there. Fade to black.
And in case, yes, he is dead, because the preview, they outright say it, like in the first 30, like not even first 30, first 5 seconds, the king is dead.
Yeah. So they did a lot this episode.
Yes, they did.
Definitely did. Like I say, the time of the Game of Thrones, and like the, not the renaming of King's Landing, but the renaming of the heir really became the driving point of this episode. And we can't say, Will Johnson's performance just stole the damn
masterful
thing. It did. Because he came in, and just when he came in with a purpose. He was in a losing battle no matter what you were going to have.
Yeah.
But it built up where Daemon just took that whole family off the board in one foul swoop. And then you're building the tension between Alicent and Rhaenyra. That's going to be the battle for this entire series.
Oh, yeah.
Moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
But, give the devil his due. Paddy Considine did his thing. Like I said, could not be, say anything bad about his performance here. They finally gave him something to sink his teeth into. Because I have hated how he's been written on the show, but like I said, he has done a masterful job this episode. The makeup they did, Jesus.
Yeah, he should be. Paddy Considine should easily get an Emmy nomination for this episode alone.
Yeah,
this episode was awesome. I think the other big one we're going to get going forward is between Aemond and then also Daemon.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a big one going forward.
Yeah, he's probably been for a fight. Like, that's the one thing he's in there. It's Morbin time, and he is ready to go.
Jesus.
On that note, though, let us know what you thought about the latest episode of House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones spinoff, entitled The Lord of the Tides. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou.
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
And you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which we alluded to in an earlier segment. That was the shakeup to the Marvel Studios theatrical release schedule. This was announced just a couple of days ago, yesterday actually, as we record, and I'm reading from the official article on Marvel.com. Says, quote, there have been a few changes across the multiverse for Phase 4 and 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, aka the Multiverse Saga. But don't worry, new and exciting superheroes are still on their way to the big screen. Announced by the Walt Disney Company, the upcoming Marvel Studios films Blade, Untitled Deadpool movie, Fantastic Four, and Avengers Secret Wars have all received slightly shifted release dates. Find all the new listed dates below. So Blade, previously dated November 3rd, 2023, has been moved to September 6th, 2024. The Untitled Deadpool movie, previously dated September 6th, 2024, has been moved back to November 8th of 2024. The Fantastic Four, previously dated November 8th, 2024, has been moved to February 14th, 2025. And Avengers Secret Wars, previously dated November 7th, 2025, has been moved back to May 1st of 2026. Feels weird to be talking about movies that are going to be coming out in 4 years, but those are the dates that we got. Now, I know the Blade one is because the director left the project, so they were getting ready to go into pre-production. Kind of hard to go into pre-production when you don't have a director. So I know that's the deal with that one. In terms of the rest of them, I really haven't heard anything. I mean, I know the Fantastic Four, they just got a director, so I don't think it's anything necessarily like the sky's falling. It's just a domino effect. Like, hey, we got to move the one back. We got to move the other one back. Because you notice, Blade took the spot of the Deadpool movie, which, and Deadpool took the spot of the Fantastic Four movie, so it just seemed like a domino effect.
Yeah, I'm not too mad about it. I mean, obviously, I'd rather them get it right the first time than we have Inhumans.
Sure. Oh, God.
So, I can't be too mad about this. I mean, and obviously with the rumors, and we stress rumors about the script, I hope they're rewriting it if they're going to go into this whole mode about it. You can plug and play Blade in anywhere.
Sure.
That's the thing about him. You don't need exactly a movie franchise. We've already had one with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
The fact we're doing a retelling with Mahershala Ali as a title character, do it right when you do it right the first time. And I understand that he could be frustrated. He's one of the hottest actors in Hollywood. He has a lot going on. So trying to do schedules could be a little tough, but listen, this is the MCU. Feige has not left us high and dry. I don't think he's going to do that here. I'm just more happy, let's get it right the first time. And the one thing, too, we always forget is we're spoiled as MCU fans because, obviously, coming out of the pandemic, we had a year's worth of Disney Plus and then movies on top of it. It was oversaturation. So the fact that, no movie, people are, losing their shit about. And it's pump the brakes.
We'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Relax.
It'll be fine. Then with Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, we got the penultimate episode last week titled The Eye. Wasn't necessarily as crazy as the one prior, but still really good, setting up for the season finale, which is going to be fucking bonkers. Bonkers enough that they're releasing this thing at midnight Eastern. Not the typical midnight Pacific.
Oh, not West Coast.
No, they're dropping this thing at midnight Eastern.
Interesting.
And I would not be surprised. I have not heard anything, but I would not be surprised if they drop this thing at 9 p.m. Eastern. Just to get the buzz really going for the entire, night and day. The episode 7, The Eye, phenomenal episode, really setting things up for the season finale. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's 2 scenes in the final couple of scenes in the episode that are really setting up for some major stuff that are going to be fucking nuts. The show's been amazing thus far. I know they started season 2 last week or over the weekend, so super excited for that. But the show's been top notch and amazing.
The one thing is, Pat has been championing this show since day one, so if you want to talk more about him, hit him up on Twitter. He will get into those conversations with you. I have fallen off on the show a little bit. Not that I'm disinterested, but I've had a lot going on. But everything I've heard, especially the past couple episodes, everybody's been ranting and raving about.
Oh, yeah, it's been phenomenal. It's some of the best television I've seen this year.
So we'll definitely have to be talking about that when it comes up. But yeah, no, I definitely want to go back and check this out. Like I say, Amazon Studios has been doing some really great stuff this run. So definitely excited to hear what the reaction is going to be, and definitely hit up Pat on Twitter too at Meslin he will definitely discuss this with you a little more in depth.
Yeah, people have certainly, like you said, been tuning in because the head of Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salke, did an interview with Variety, and Variety did bring up, quote, 1 month in, how do you feel about the performance so far regarding to Rings of Power? She said, quote, we're cresting towards 100 million customers having watched it, so it's a big number. We can't wait to get more info on how the audience all breaks down. We really anticipate with these last 3 episodes a huge turnout because it's all coming together and curiosity is at a fever pitch. And these last few episodes are the strongest in the season because they're not just about the setup, they're excellent, close quote. So listen, it's gonna, like, just from what I've seen with the episodes themselves, it's gonna be fucking nuts.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to be there for this.
Yeah.
And then lastly, certainly not leastly, big week at the comic shops for Star Wars. Got 3 issues out this week.
Oh, talk to me, Pat.
Yeah, so you've got Star Wars issue number 28. This from Charles Soule, back on the main line, which the description of this is the calculus of loss. The price of freedom is examined as the Rebel Alliance comes to understand the true scope of the threat against it. 3PO enters into aggressive negotiations, and Luke Skywalker embarks on a desperate mission that will test his growing Jedi skills to the limit. I am showing Ken the cover art on this.
Yo, that looks dope.
Luke Skywalker's in Imperial officer's uniform.
Who is the artist on that?
The cover artist is E.M. Gist.
Oh, dude, that looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's really awesome. Also this week, you've got Star Wars The High Republic, issue number 1. This is the same title, new era, because this is kicking off, I guess you could call it, I think it's phase 2. They're doing The High Republic, they're doing phases kind of like Marvel does. So this one written by Kevin Scott. You've got the description of this is a new chapter begins for Star Wars The High Republic. 150 years before the fall of Starlight, another beacon burns bright in the galaxy, a beacon of faith and spirituality. Jeddah, the Pilgrim Moon, the Kyber Heart. But tensions are rising in the Holy City and dark days are to come. Jedi Vildermac, a Jedi safe and secure in who he is and what he could be, arrives at Jeddah's fragile peace begins to crumble, but a nightmare awaits, a nameless terror that will become the stuff of legend. So this is obviously the start to phase 3, which is going to be kicking off with the books here, and I want to say it's maybe like the end of November, beginning of December, something like that, but super excited for this. The High Republic stuff has been some of the best storytelling they've done. Highly recommend you check that one out. And then lastly, certainly not leastly, Star Wars Visions 1, issue number 1 from Takashi Okazaki, which it reads, Takashi Okazaki from Afro Samurai is continuing his storytelling from the acclaimed Star Wars Visions episode, The Duel, featuring the Ronin. The mythology of Star Wars infused with elements of feudal Japan make this issue a must-read for Star Wars and manga fans alike. I am showing Ken the cover art on this. How cool is that?
Yo.
This looks awesome.
That looks incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, Visions, we're big fans of. I mean, for taking the Star Wars mythos and really going in a different direction with it, I think they really hit the stride. Like, it's just something cool and something different. And I always like seeing that because we have already seen basically everything you can with Star Wars.
Kinda, yeah.
But when they do re-envisionings, like, I think it's very cool. It's much like with Mortal Kombat's Legends.
Yes.
Like, that is an Elseworld story, but not on that kind of level like you see here. But like, there's some similar tones. But with what they're doing with Visions, I mean, for Marvel, Star Wars, I think that's super, super cool.
Super awesome.
So for mine, I'm going to piggyback on the comic talk from Marvel this week. Daredevil number 4 is generating a lot of buzz. So it's Chip Zdarsky's latest epic going on. Some spoilers are out right now about it, so I'm going to just say this. There's a big moment that happens. It's one that fans have been kind of sort of waiting for a little while. I definitely want people to go out and read it and then interact on ODPH Twitter. Like, sure. I have no problem talking about this. I don't want to ruin it because obviously it's the first day it came out. But something big goes down that I'm kind of like, okay, I was not expecting. But, I mean, Chip Zdarsky does amazing work, so I'm not doubting that. From the DC side of things, Batman vs. Robin number 2 has really been a book to check out. Mark Waid's really going a lot of crazy places with it. And Mahmoud Aserd is absolutely crushing it on the art. So, like, seriously, love what they're doing with this book. For Parlay Point section, Comixology Originals, you know I love that line. You know I preach about it all the time because I think they do some fantastic stuff. Census number 2 is out. Mark Bernardin, Adam Freeman, and Sebastian Perez. Listen, the lovable loser of Liam Malone and his trials being a Census Bureau representative have not stopped with the laughs and the motif of the lovable loser. Like I say, just he finds a way to make you root for him, even though he is just absolutely down on his luck, and just the places he has to go. Taking the census of the supernatural has just been awesome. I really enjoy this book. I think there's a lot of humor in it, and just some interesting takes that they have. Like I say, I really can't recommend this book enough. It's something different, so it's not for everybody per se. But I would say give it a shot on Comixology Originals. I always preach about that line, and for rightfully so, one of the best lines on comics, bar none. And my last pick, this is bittersweet for me. Once in Future number 30.
Okay.
Now, this is the conclusion of the series.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just trying to find some crazy artwork by Dan Mora, because look at all this stuff that he is doing here.
Wow.
Like I say,
that's a lot.
For what they have done with Bridget McGuire, who I thought is one of the best written characters of all the comics, and the tale of King Arthur coming back, and how they all intertwine this together. Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora absolutely have made this book a must-read each month from Boom Studios. Dan Mora, I've gone on record and I've said I think he's the best artist in comics right now, bar none. I don't think anybody is really doing the amount of stuff that he's doing on this level at this moment. Not saying that there isn't great artists out there, because I think that there are. But I think for what he has been doing, like this work in World's Finest for DC, and I know he's going to be drawing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover coming out later this year. He's at the top of the game right now. Like, he is just absolutely killing it. And this book leaves nothing left behind. It's a bittersweet issue because, like I say, I'm a huge fan of the series. And when I knew it was coming, because it's been building up in that story, they definitely ended on a high note. No spoilers involved. I'm just going to tell you, get down to your local comic shop and go pick it up. And as always, we say, go support your favorite independent podcasts and go support your favorite local comic shops. Before we end, though, Pad, there was some news that came by the wire that I want your opinion on.
Okay.
So we got a press release about DC Universe Infinite.
Okay.
And they're now rolling out DC Universe Infinite Ultra. So to quote the press release, DC Universe Infinite is getting better with the introduction of the brand new Ultra tier launching today. DC Universe Infinite Ultra, that's a mouthful, so I'm just probably shortening it up to Ultra. Subscribers will be able to read the latest releases of DC just 1 month after being available at the comic shops.
Holy fuck.
So starting today, the tier members can read books like Black Adam, numbers 1 through 4, Batman Beyond the White Knight, 1 through 4, Flashpoint Beyond, 1 through 5, The Nice House on the Lake, 1 through 9, and much, much more. Plus, in mid-November, Ultra subscribers can read more than 5,000 exclusive titles from Vertigo, Black Label, and collections from DC, including Sandman Presents, Dead Boy Detectives, 100 Bullets, American Vampire, and more. Ultra tier is available for a special limited time introductory price of $100 a year in the U.S., $119.99 in Canada, $134.99 in Australia, and $134.99 in New Zealand, and in the UK it's £72.99, I believe.
Okay.
So plus applicable taxes.
Right. Yeah.
So the pricing rate is available from now until November 28th. So what I'm going to actually it remains valid as long as your Ultra subscription is good standing and you do not cancel. Current subscribers can upgrade monthly and annual subscriptions to Ultra. So Pat, what I'm curious what your thoughts are about this. What do you think this means? Like, what is this impacting you?
I mean, it's wild to think of that. Like, you will have a service out there where like you can get stuff that quickly ahead of time, But hey, if you're that big of a DC fan and like you can't wait however long it is for it to hit the service normally,
it's usually 3 months.
If you're that big of a DC fan, like, hey, more power to you, go for it. But if you can stomach the wait, then like I understand sticking with it. It's wild to think of, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's the first instance of its kind that I can think of.
Yeah, same here.
Outside of like a Comixology where like you can get the stuff you can pre-order the stuff weeks ahead. But in terms of like, hey, you just pay one monthly fee, it's all right there. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. And if it goes well, I mean, I could see Marvel doing the same thing, so it's an interesting litmus test.
It's a very, very interesting litmus test, but it's one that I think gave me a little trepidation early, but then I reminded myself of something. We always preach about Comixology originals, and rightfully so. One of the best lines in comics. And it's something that Scott Snyder said last year at NY Comic Con that I want to just kind of bring back in tenfold. we live in, and I'm paraphrasing a lot here, but the main gist is we live in a digital age, and we get into these situations where this is a great way to test out a book if you like reading it. There's also nothing like going to a comic shop and picking it up. I don't think this is going to be the death of comic shops by any stretch of the means, because if you're a true collector, and trust me, if you want verification that this is still a very viable medium, go to a New York Comic Con one year.
Yeah, really.
Go walk around Artist Alley and see how many people are getting stuff signed. If you really think this medium is dead, it's not. It's evolving. But one thing I think that we've seen with the success of the Scottober line, especially, is you're now seeing DC follow suit almost in a reverse order. You can go for the print, but if you want to wait 1 month and read it, you'll read it. But there's nothing like holding a comic book or going to a shop that you can replicate on that app. Like, it's great to read for me, like, especially I'm on the go a lot. I'm reading a lot during my breaks at work and such. Like, a little peek behind the curtain. That's how I do my reviews. But this is where I can go dive into a book, and I can definitely catch up, and I can do a lot of more interactions with that. But I still love going to a comic shop on New Comic Book Day, going in there, talking with our guy Justin from Justin Credible Cosplay there at Sound Go Round. I'll give a free plug them. And just having that experience and talking about the books. Like, what did you think about this? Talking with fellow fans. Like, yo, did you pick up this Radiant Black? I know we're talking Image Comics, but this is the one that I always get into because they talk Massive Verse down there all the damn time. Nothing wrong with it. It's just that's how good that line is. But that's the example. Like, you go out there and you can buy it. Like, if you did something digitally, like we're talking Batman.
Yeah.
Right now, Chip Zdarsky run. Everybody's, really amped up about it. Okay, so we're having those conversations while we're picking up the book and we're expressing that fandom. You can't replicate that online. I mean, obviously you can do chats and whatever, but it's not the same. I don't think that medium's going anywhere, but I think this provides a great way for fans to get their comics to, and especially if you're not able to get to a comic shop every week, this is a great way to still support the medium and still pick up books. I think this is going to be a good thing. I don't think this is the death knell by any means. I know some people were really worried about it, but I think this is something that I'm already a subscriber to Infinite. I'm definitely going to be looking into picking it up.
Yeah. No, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, especially with just as expensive as things have gotten and certain amenities, I guess you could say, or certain luxuries you might have been able to afford before you're not able to now. This is just a way that you might be able to get back into it. They're like, hey, you know what? I'm not able to pay 40, 50, whatever bucks it is, a month. But hey, if I got this one fee they're going to pay for the year or for the month or whatever it breaks down to, then hey, this might be the way for you to get back into them.
Exactly. So I definitely recommend checking that out, but I will always tell you first and foremost, go support your favorite local comic shops, always and forever. But listen, if you can't get down there that often, this is a great way to do it. And if you find some book on there that you really like, go down to your LCS and go pick it up. That being said, we will keep it very short and sweet. For anything and everything that is the ODPH, swing on over to odphpodcast.com. That's all we got for this week. So for the one only Padawan J.
Just want to give a quick shout out to a listener of the show, Matthew, go Terrapins.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.